So you got a power meter on your bike?
Got power meter.
There's listeners out here this is music to their ears right
so
now.
So I've got the power pedals, the Favaro Asimos.
Oh, they're cracking. I've got the same ones.
Decent pedals. And like I say, I just
what's a good ride? Like, what kind of watch you putting out for a...
So my wattage and obviously your wattage would be completely different, but watts per kilogram, probably on the high 2s. So 2.9 watts per kilogram.
Right.
And for me, that's probably about 200 to 300 watts, I would say. And again, like if I'm cruising along a flat, I would like to keep it on the high 100s to the 200 mark. Cruising. That'll probably be pushing out about 40k an hour, which is pretty decent.
That's good.
Getting to hills, obviously my size comes into effect. So say going up the Crow Road, decent climb.
Yeah.
Quite like that climb. It's you could probably be pushing out maybe more 300 to 400 watts going up there. And feel that lung burn as you're getting to the top. But it's a stunning cycle for anyone who's done it. But it's nice. I like the fact that you can gauge yourself and how you're doing, you can compare yourself to the previous day. Like a lot of people aren't caring. Well, I mean,
like the other side of it is, when you're not feeling it, and the old training method was go like you had only go and feel like what's your perceived effort. And there's times where, like, the thing being is that you on one side that you could look at the data and beating yourself up, I'm not as good as I was the time before, and so on. And but there's other times where how many times you've been out and you go, I feel awful, and you look down at your numbers and you're actually doing good numbers, and you go, that's actually quite. You get a boost because you're going, I'm not as bad as I thought. I'm feeling worse, but I'm actually performing quite well. So it's got this sort of weird relationship where it can have an opposite effect.
Yeah, like a really good example is when you are training for something like a triathlon and you introduce brick sessions to your training. So a brick session is doubling down on your training. So it's like coming straight off the bike, putting your shoes on and heading out on a run, and it doesn't have to be a long run. It can be a 2, 3, 5k run, but it's important to introduce to your body what it feels like to come off a bike and start running. And for anyone who's done it realizes that it is the most bizarre feeling in the world. But you naturally think, I'm doing myself an injustice here. This is a super slow, pathetic run. And then you look down at your watch and realize that you're almost pushing out a PB because it's just that unknown that your legs are just so like almost like jelly in a way, but they know the physicality, the method of it, one foot in front of the other and just run. And you've warmed up, your lungs are warmed up because you've finished a good cycle. So you're not warming your body up as if you would just start off a run fresh. So you naturally run at a fairly decent pace, but your body feels like you're doing a piss poor effort. And I would say for anyone that wants to try it, give it a bash.
If you don't like somebody, get them into triathlon, get them into Ironman.
Yeah.
If you really like, if you've got somebody that you're like, I'm not big onto you, but you're close enough where you can convince them. You have an air of like you've built enough of a relationship where you can influence them into triathlon. It's a great thing to do to somebody that you would really get enjoyment out of them suffering.
And probably 9 times out of 10 they might not even complete it, and then you could realize that where their flaws are, where they're maybe not as resilient as what they once thought.
Yeah, and they probably need to get your journal to go and dig into that.
My journal.
You go and get a combat journal to go and figure out where they all went wrong,
and you'll complete that triathlon.
Yeah. But next time, just you've got to take the losses, you've got to take the hits as well as the wins. It's not like Rocky says, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. And I like the idea of that. You didn't do well and you could have went more. Well, you should beat yourself up on that. You should remember that.
Even when I finished the Ironman, when I crossed that finish line, because the run was so much slower than what I'd planned out to be, because I was dealing with an injury. So there was a young guy that actually finished the bike with me and pretty much ran the whole run with me. And he was struggling just as much as me. So we almost gave each other a bit of emotional support. But as we came to about 5 kilometers, I think it was, from the finish line, I turned round to him and I says, listen, I'm actually starting to feel okay now. I think the adrenaline's starting to take over. And the last thing that I'll be doing is to be seen hobbling over that finish line. so I'm probably going to start running this in soon. Do you want to come with me? And he was like, absolutely not. Like, if you want to do it, you batter on, go.
Yep.
So I started running. It was on, like, I put out a fairly decent time for that last 5K. And when I came across that line, even my sister said to me, she went, you absolutely sprinted over that line. And it was my pride within myself. Regardless of how I felt previous in the race, the finish line was all that anyone cares about. And I wasn't going to be hobbling over that line. I was going to make sure that I at least tried to spend myself. But when I crossed the finish line, I just realized the fact that I'd pretty much just... So I'd done the marathon in 4.5 hours, which for any marathon alone's not a bad time.
It's really good.
It was an hour slower than what I'd planned, but for me that was a super slow marathon time. So I wasn't tired, I wasn't exhausted, what you would expect after doing like 12 hours of a endurance race. So instantly I felt I need to do another one of these, because the whole reason why I set out to do it is to push myself and to show myself what I'm capable of. And I've just crossed over this finish line not feeling that I've even tapped into that resource. So I know that I need to do this again, because like what else have I got to give other than...
But the good thing is, in an experience like that, you showed up to push yourself to the level of the training that you put in ideal conditions. But it didn't work out, and you still were able to push yourself beyond that threshold, that mindset that I could quit and I haven't.
Yeah.
So that was, albeit it wasn't what you set out to do, the intent, but you were able to go and dig deep where you needed to.
Take something from it.
Yeah.
And that was the thing, was the finish, and that was...
Still silver lining in every dark cloud. You make the most, you make the best out of what you've got.
Definitely.